themselves and then have an opportunity to answer questions. Could I have the candidates for the 3-year position on this table, the candidates for the 2-year position on this table? And would you guys set yourselves up alphabetically?
Alphabetically according to height?
Yeah, right. Okay, wait, SLAVIN, no, SAUVAGEAU goes in the middle, SLAVIN goes on the end. SA goes, yeah.
That's him.
Oh, that's right, too. Oh, never mind. It's late. Give me that right now. Okay. Who else is up here? TEITELBAUM.
TEITELBAUM's in the middle.
TEITELBAUM is in the middle.
Mr. JOHAR.
JOHAR.
Me.
No.
Mr. Tropiano.
No. Yeah, no. JOHAR, yes.
Wherever you want me to sit, honey. Wherever you want me to sit. I'll leave it on the floor if you tell me.
Okay. We're missing Patrick. Calling Patrick. Would someone check and see if Patrick's outside? All right. We don't see Patrick. Oh my. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we move forward anyway. Before we get started, I would like to announce that there should be another candidate up here, but she will not be on the podium. And I would like Town Clerk Mary Ann Silva to address the situation. Do you want to come up, or do you want me to bring this to you? Okay. Can we close up the chatter, please?
Good evening, everybody. Mary Ann Silva, Town Clerk. What had happened was the last day to withdraw or object for the 2-year seat was actually set for the March 1st. I think it was the 1st. Thursday night. I had it all set up. My Board of Registrars was present. We waited for anybody to come. We were there. Actually, we were there 5 o'clock. We were there until 7:30 because I had a training for new poll workers. No one showed up. The next morning, I don't know, it was probably about 9 o'clock, Mary Jane came in with her letter. My assistant called me. She asked to withdraw. Unfortunately, it was too late. I could not accept it. She asked me to keep the letter for the record. I did keep the letter, but it was too late to take her name off the ballot. So that's why, even though she's not actually running, her name will still appear on the ballot.
Okay. So everybody understands she is a non-candidate. Ouch. Okay. Missing one, now two. It's a little unnerving. We are going to allow each candidate to have 5 minutes to introduce themselves. As there is no incumbent, we will be going alphabetically. 3-year candidates are here. 2-year candidates are here. To the left, right 3, left 2. We will start with Bruce because he is SA. Here we go. Go ahead.
Hello, SAs. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank the OPL for providing a very valuable community service to all of us and allowing the candidates to be able to actually discuss our the most compelling issues with you. So my name is Bruce SAUVAGEAU, and I am a candidate for the 3-year seat on the Board of Selectmen. I've occupied that seat before, having won that office in 3 prior elections. During that time, I served as chairman of the Board of Selectmen twice. I served as clerk twice, and I also served for 3 years on the Finance Committee, serving as the vice chairman in my last year. I served on the Affordable Housing Partnership for 4 years, which is where the Westfield Senior Affordable Housing Project originated. I served on the Zoning Rewrite Committee as a voting member for 3 years in order to modernize our zoning so that we could attract business development to Wareham. Excuse me. I served as a Southeastern Regional Economic Planning and Development Commissioner, SERPED, for several years, as well as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which resulted in a $15 million commitment to re-engineer and rebuild the Route 6 corridor. I served as liaison to the Finance Committee, the Marine Resource Committee, the CETA Committee, as well as the Comcast and Verizon Board of Selectmen Negotiating Committee, and I also served on the Middle School Building Committee during that time as well. That's over a decade of institutional knowledge and practical experience that is sorely lacking, in my opinion, on this current Board of Selectmen. There is no other candidate for this office that can bring that level of experience to this Board of Selectmen on day one. Why is that important to you as voters and taxpayers and citizens of this community? The longest-serving member of this Board of Selectmen is just completing his first term, and he's leaving in a month. The next 2 have only 2 years of service each. And tragically, we only have 1 selectman remaining with just 1 year of service. This is, to my observation, the least experienced Board of Selectmen that most of us have ever witnessed. New blood is certainly important for the energy and fresh perspective that it brings. But right now, new blood is all that we have. That is important because this Board of Selectmen is facing critical issues currently that are being needlessly delayed, and I would submit do exactly because of that lack of experience and therefore lack of leadership in the community. For example, the town administrator's contract has been delayed week after week and is now a needless distraction to this community. That has to absolutely be taken care of one way or the other upon the reorganization of this board. We need continuity in that office. The Westfield Housing Project has been delayed for years. That is a vitally important project to this community, not only for what it will do for our seniors, but the revenues that it will produce over many years to this community. The school busing issue is reaching crisis status. We simply have to resolve that issue one way or the other. We either contract it out or we take it keep it in-house and pass tax increases in order to finance that. Sewer contracts are being delayed at the expense of the newest ratepayers, which can only lead to higher project costs. That is unfair to treat our newest payers in that manner. It was astonishing to me that this Board of Selectmen allowed without objection a unanimous vote of the board to appoint graduate-level Masters in Public Administration students to study the busing matter, only to be unilaterally revoked by just one member of the Capital Planning Committee. In 1 minute? In my opinion, the current Board of Selectmen is abdicating its authority and responsibility to this community. It's showing no leadership, no vision, and no plan of any kind to advance this community. We can no longer afford to tolerate that Board of Selectmen that isn't even showing up to mandatory meetings, such as the one that they just missed between the FinCom and School Committee.
It's in the Pas-de-Calais.
Out of other people's money. The next Board of Selectmen needs to prioritize and focus on core services, hold the line on spending, save for the future, and build the path for future success by building critical infrastructure. I hope we can discuss all of these issues, many of these issues this evening, and I look forward to your questions. Pay very close attention to the answers you're given. Are they specific answers to your specific questions. Thank you.
All right, I actually ended up giving Bruce 6 minutes because I was busy with Bob. So everybody has 6 minutes. Sorry, guys. Okay, Alan, you're next.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Alan SLAVIN. I'm running for the 3-year selectman term. We have economic problems. We have a reputation of instability. I'm not going to list all my work on the different boards and committees in town. I'm not going to list the time I've lived in town, nor am I going to go through my background. It's all public information. It's all been written already. We need to go back and repair our core. We need to start over. I'd like to talk about a prior life experience. Back in 1968, Sandy and I went to a dirt track race in Middleborough on my motorcycle. We planned on stopping in Wareham so I could meet her mother for the first time. We were dirty, on a motorcycle, and I had face hair. I'm sure some of you have been in that situation before in life. It's not a very pleasant situation. We walked into the house, and Ruth, her mother, took one look and looked at me, and we knew exactly what she was thinking, actually, at that point. Not for my daughter. Well, it took a long time before I earned Ruth's respect, then her trust, then her confidence, that her daughter was in good hands. Before we can turn around our current situation, your town government has to earn back your respect, your confidence, and your trust. Without these, we will never reach our common goals. Our town government needs to listen to you, not tell you. As part of your government, this will become a priority. We have to start listening in order to work together as a team. You do not need us as much as we need you. In order to make all this work, we need to ask for your help and the help of those who are not here. It's time for we and us rather than I and me. I'm going to close very quickly with a simple quote from Bill Clinton, our ex-president. Nobody climbs any ladder alone. We are not ever going to build this country back by telling people they are on their own. We have to do it together. This holds true for Wareham. This holds true for the United States. Thank you. You got extra time now.
Hi, my name's Dave Smith, and I'm going to be a lot shorter than all of them. I'm a little bit nervous, so we'll go as we go. I'm probably going to answer the biggest question that seems to be on everybody's mind, asking why I'm running. And the only reason I'm running is because I really like Wareham, and I like the people of Wareham. I want to do the right thing, and I want to bring government back to the people of Wareham. I got a little speech here, very short. What I want to bring to Wareham Board of Selectmen. Transparency, overused word apparently. Accessibility and fairness. I will always put the people of the district and the town before the politicians and their interests and the interests of any political agenda. The Board of Selectmen is perhaps the most important board or committee in Wareham, but few residents know how to access them. I want to change that. I will bring my services directly to the people. An example of how I can improve my accountability is by increasing my transparency and by putting myself out there. I work in the community. I'm available to talk to all the time, whenever you need help. The people of Wareham are also entitled to a selectman who is especially qualified for the job. As seen in my resume, and if you want to see my resume, all you have to do is go to electdavesmith.org, and I've got a whole list of about 20 different things there. I've been on numerous boards and committees and worked closely with the town government. I was elected to the Board of Assessors, and I'm familiar with the connection to the operation of the town. Finally, as an independent person, I will take my desires to do the right thing and utilize my determination to bring the Selectman's office back to the people. This is my priority, to be able to get to the people and get them to tell me what they want. And in a minute I'll mention how I might do that. But you'll have to notice that there isn't a whole lot of people at this meeting compared to the years past. And it's not apathy. It's their feeling, I believe, that they can't contact government and get their problems solved. I plan to spend most of my time out there in the community, going to hopefully different coffees and different functions where people can meet me and tell me what their problems are. I'm not interested in giving them my opinion. I'm interested in them giving me their opinion. And that's what I want, and that's where I'm coming from, and that's the end of my speech.
Thank you.
Hello? Hello, everyone. My name is AMIT JOHAR. I'm a small business owner in town. My family has been in town for about 5 years. We own 2 small businesses in Wareham, Mayflower Liquor Stores next to Lindsay's and on Cranberry Highway, and Brown's Liquor Store in the Shaw's Plaza on the other side heading towards Marion. I graduated college with a degree in finance from Bridgewater State University in 2002, and at present, while my family is manning the stores, I'm employed in the banking industry while at the same time pursuing advanced degree in certification in financial planning at Boston University. Folks, I have to tell you this, these are tough times. And the global economies are struggling, dealing with the deep recession that we have on hand. The federal government keeps on trying to improve efficiencies and thereby passing on less dollars in terms of aid to the states that are here in the United States. And the states, in turn, are doing the exact same thing. They're really cutting back to the towns and the municipalities. Regretfully, because there's political factions in town who have 2 opposing agendas, as a result, we become basically the House of Congress. Everything's at a stalemate at this time. And this is why we're in a situation that we're in. Tough times call for physical solutions, not political ones. I'm running for the 2-year seat because I'm concerned about the direction that Wareham is headed in. Wareham is a victim of political gamesmanship. As a matter of fact, every single person here, and myself, are a victim of political gamesmanship. As we look at the challenges surrounding our town, they've certainly gone far beyond than our financial challenges. Unfortunately, not much has gotten done over the past year. We keep on kicking the can down the road without a plan, and as a result of this procrastination, we keep on ending up with our backs against the wall and having to choose between 2 bad options. In the next 5 years, this town called Wareham that we dearly care about is projected to be in a deficit of $6 million. Now, these budgetary problems weren't just created in one day. It was a byproduct of the neglect and the refusal to deal with the problems in the past that have been brewing under the surface. Moving forward, we have a couple of options on the table. Making cuts being one of them. I can tell you this much, everything's on the table to balance. Option number 2, we raise taxes. Sorry folks, taxes might be a good idea at certain times. If this was the 90s, maybe that would be a consideration. But given the rate of inflation and the dollar purchasing power going down, it is not a good time. And I don't think the taxpayers in this town need to be paying additional for the services that they're getting right now. Option number 3, environmental friendly business development. It should be no surprise here, folks. In January, 25 small businesses opened up in Plymouth. 1 opened up in Wareham. 4 opened up in Bourne. 1 opened up in Wareham. And that's exactly why we're in a little bit of a bind. Last option is do nothing. I don't think we're in, at this point, this option is not even on the table because we're stuck in this quagmire because we did nothing in the past. So one of the things, in my conclusion, do nothing and raising taxes out of the question as far as I'm concerned. The only two options at this point are making cuts, which might be a good short-term solution, but a long-term solution to our problem is the business development aspect of this town. We need to have a game plan in place because I haven't seen one business plan that anybody can even show me in this town. And I don't know, being a small business owner, I don't know how anybody operates without one. You can't operate a business. You can't certainly manage your household budgets that way. So step number one is certainly establishing a business plan. First order of business is to have proper leadership. And our town administrator is a perfectly good leader, and we shouldn't be dilly-dallying with his contract. And he's the CEO of this, as far as I'm concerned, he's the CEO of this town. And since the town is headed in the right direction with some of his initiatives, we need to keep him there and hold him accountable to bring this town out. Good leadership always starts at the top. So now, folks, why vote for me? Let me tell you why. I'm the only candidate that could potentially be sitting on that seat with a small business active background right now. It wasn't in the past, it's now, because I feel the pain. I not only live here, but I have my retirement and my parents' retirement money invested in our businesses. I don't have a 401k invested anywhere else. It's here in Wareham. I put my money where my mouth is. And lastly, to our existing problems, I bring fresh and intuitive perspective to the current issues and my experience to the budgetary matters. Thank you.
Look at that. Huh? Pretty good. Like that? Put it right down the middle.
I knew she was hovering.
Yeah.
Come on, it's my job.
Time? Go. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you to the Onset Protective League, a former and I assume possibly still a present client of mine, and also I'd like to thank WCTV. I'd like to thank the print media who've hung in here at this late hour to hear what we have to say, and of course you, the audience here, and also the audience out there watching on WCTV. Your name? My name is Peter Teitelbaum. My family history in Wareham dates back to before World War I, when my great-grandfather used to bring his family down to Pinehurst from Chelmsford and rented a cottage there for a month in the summer. I presume they came down by train and probably took the trolley when they got in town. That's how far back this occurred. My grandfather, John McMaster, moved his family here in 1938, and he and my grandmother spent the rest of their days in Wareham. My mother, the late Marjorie Teitelbaum, and my aunt, the late Barbara McMaster Grimwade, both attended Wareham schools, were graduates of Wareham High School, and were admitted to Wellesley College. My mother taught in the Wareham Public Schools for several years before she became an associate professor of education at Bridgewater State. In terms of public service, I'm the third one who's gotten involved in that. My grandfather served on the FinCom in the 1950s. My late mother served on the Open Space Committee, Community Preservation Committee, the Minot Forest Committee. She worked on the Open Space Plan in the last decade. She served as a representative to the Carver-Plymouth-Wareham Aquifer Committee, and she also served as a town representative during negotiations with the 80 Makepeace Co. last decade. I reside in the house my grandfather built, and so between my ancestors and my own 52 years in town, my family has some long-term ties to and interests in this community. Even though this is my first run for elective office and I'm not part of the current political establishment. As far as my personal background goes, I attended Wareham Public Schools, grades 1 through 8. I'm a graduate of Tabor Academy. I attended Colby College, and I earned a Bachelor of Arts in English and History from Bridgewater State College in 1984. I worked for the Boston Globe for nearly 10 years as a home delivery supervisor and manager. My work there involved the hiring, oversight, disciplining, and termination of employees, and also the process of getting a time-sensitive product out to customers. My experience working for the Globe, and in particular the management of employees and the supervision of operations, should be helpful as a selectman. I look forward to bringing that managerial background to the Board of Selectmen and working with the rest of the Board of the Selectmen to develop policies and procedures to better serve the town and to protect its interests. I'm also an attorney. I attended the New England School of Law in Boston, which is an American Bar Association accredited law school. I graduated in the spring of 1998 in the top third of my class while I continued to work full-time at the Globe. I passed the Massachusetts bar exam on my first try and was admitted to practice in Massachusetts in December of 1998 and also to the Federal District Court of Massachusetts in 1999. I am a member of both bars in good standing. I'm a sole practitioner, and my practice is primarily in environmental law, land use, real estate, construction, and administrative law. I believe that working as an attorney has taught me negotiating skills and also the ability to bring people together. When you come out of law school, you are stuffed full of law, literally like a turkey, because that's what law schools do. They prepare you for the bar exam. But that alone doesn't give you the tools to be successful in negotiations. Only working in the field is going to teach you that. I believe I have the skills to negotiate and oversee the negotiations of contracts with employees and to work with businesses and hopefully to bring businesses to this community. In addition to wanting to put my skill set to work for the town, I'm also running for selectman because I believe in our town and its people, and I want to serve as the representative of all people and businesses located here. I believe that my legal experience, combined with my background in corporate management, makes me suited to be a selectman. So I ask for your vote on April 3rd, and I look forward to amicably and constructively serving in the interests of all residents. Thank you.
Should we leave it here, Peter?
We'll be getting the first question.
All right. Let's leave it here like this.
Okay, questions? Don't everybody jump at once.
Woo! Look at that. Look at the turn up.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right.
Oh my God, is this an auction here?
Janet Jones, can you hear me?
No,
No.
no. You could speak up, Janet.
Janet Jones, Precinct 2. I'd like to know how each of these candidates feel about the renewal of Town Administrator Mark Andrews' contract.
Okay, did everybody hear the question? The question is, how do each of the candidates feel about renewing the town administrator's contract? Alan, we will start with you, please. Oh, each candidate has 2 minutes to answer. Otherwise, we'll be here all night.
I don't think you'll let us be here all night.
No, we're going home shortly.
If you say so. The decision to retain the town administrator comes down to his performance against the goals set by the Board of Selectmen. I don't have any real information at that point because I don't have the information what the goals were for the past couple of years. If he is the right person to manage and financially control our public safety, education on the town side, public works, health, human services, and employee benefits and debt of our town government, the answers will be determined when what the action will be. Basic answer to the question is I'm going to have to take a little bit of time to go through everything before I can make a decision.
That goes to David next.
One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to find out what the people of Wareham feel. It's not going to be my decision. It's going to be hopefully a majority of the people. To tell me, or for me to tell you what I feel, is going to be how do I express this? I'm afraid that if I make a decision and I have to counter it because I found out that a majority of the people feel one way or the other, that I'm going to get myself into trouble. I will give you my opinions, however, which does not mean I will necessarily vote that way. From what I've seen of Mark, he's been a very influential and very open administrator. I would like to see some of his policies be brought out into the public more. But during the meetings and such, I personally feel that I would like to see him stay on as administrator. But again, this is going to be determined later on by what I feel the majority of the people of Wareham feel. Thank you.
Yes. Regarding the town administrator contract, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been already dealt with, folks. It's been, what, 6 months? We've been talking about this thing and it hasn't taken one step forward. So quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, looking at the numbers and looking at some of the initiative he's taken by bringing Chief Stanley in town, who has, again, and the police department accreditation, as well as their statistics that are leading them in the right direction. So that tells me one thing: the guy can make a good judgment, and some of his, so as far as that's concerned, he can make a good decision. That's a good decision maker, good manager. And secondly, let's compare. What's the other option we have here? There's not, you don't really have another somebody knocking down your door. So why aren't we renewing his contract? It's not like people are really coming to Wareham, knocking on doors, trying to say, I want to be the next town administrator. So unless we got a Harvard MBA waiting somewhere, I think you should extend it, because I don't like foresight and having a question in front of me. So instead of, let's put a little bit of certainty in place, let's extend his contract, because in the last 5-6 years, we've had plenty of town administrators, and this continuity, this volatility has to stop, and we need continuity, not more volatility.
Okay. According to our town charter, and I believe also in accordance with the current contract we have with Mr. Andrews, the selectmen have until June 6th to notify him of whether they intend to enter into negotiations to renew his contract, or to tell him, thank you for your service, but we're going to look elsewhere. So I think the new incoming Board of Selectmen is going to have plenty of time to continue to assess his performance before a decision is made on whether to retain him. When I'm elected selectman, the only way I can be fair to both the town and to Mr. Andrews is to work with him over a period of time and to take the measure of the man myself as I observe his work on a number of tasks. It's unfair to both him and the town to rely upon media reports or other secondhand information to make that kind of assessment. The biggest responsibility of a selectman is to hire the town administrator, and I believe an incoming selectman has the responsibility, and I would go even further and say a duty, to perform his or own personal due diligence before making that decision, and also to take into account the thoughts of Wareham's residents while serving in office. I also believe that a candidate should avoid stating in advance if he or she is inclined to rehire or to allow a town administrator's contract to expire. I don't think either the town or the town administrator benefit or are really well served by that kind of advanced speculation. I will say that in my dealings with Mr. Andrews, which are limited because my sole role in town affairs has been on the Minor Forest Committee, but as maybe some of you know, we have a red pine crisis along Indian Neck Road that's going to require significant work being done there. I have found him to be polite and helpful, and I do look forward to working with him for the next few months up until such time as a decision needs to be made.
Okay, next question.
No.
Ruth, sorry.
Sure, Nan, sure. I want to talk about that 1 minute you said I don't believe you. Okay, well, I think that I have a very personal perspective on the subject of the town administrator. I think myself and maybe maybe two other people in this community that are alive have actually worked with all 6 of the previous town administrators. I started working with Joe Murphy when I was on the finance committee. I obviously worked with Mr. Hartman thereafter, John Forster as the interim town administrator. Obviously, Mr. McAuliffe, I hired him as one of the 5 selectmen, and Mr. Sanginetta as the interim town administrator thereafter, and obviously Mr. Andrews, who I hired. So my perspective is, and to answer the question succinctly, he is the only town administrator that I've ever worked with that I would rehire for that job. John Foster, great guy, a gentleman, very efficient at his job, but he'll be the first to tell you he doesn't want the job. And he did, and he was working, you know, two jobs for one paycheck. He wants to do what he wants to do, and I admire and respected what he did for this community during that time. But Mr. Andrews has an extraordinary work ethic, in my personal opinion. He's smart. He's very intuitive. He does great analysis. I was always impressed by how he came to any issue when he was advising us or we were advising him on issues. He was he did excellent work calculating the cost benefit to this community. I always respected that approach. He was not substantive by nature. He drew his energy and drew his opinion on matters based on hard data and based on the information that he had, and that always impressed me. Now, speaking of goals, he hasn't been presented with any goals. He hasn't been presented with any vision. The Board of Selectmen, their job is to prioritize for the Board of Selectmen in the budget process fiscal goals. He has not been presented with that. He's operating in the dark and on his own, so to measure him against those goals and those visions is really unfair because he hasn't had the opportunity to see real leadership on that board yet. When he does, he is fully accountable and he performs or he doesn't. I would rehire him. I will extend his contract if I'm elected, and I believe we're getting a great bargain and the benefit of that bargain and a very good investment in this town administrator. Thank you.
Okay, next question.
Andrea Smith. What would you do as selectman to accelerate the development of the Westfield project?
I'm sorry, would you ask that again?
What would you do as selectman to accelerate the development of the Westfield project?
What would they do as selectmen, not what you would do to selectmen?
It's getting deep already.
Okay, so what would you do as selectmen to accelerate the Westfield project? David, you start.
Lucky me. Again, we'll you have to understand. No, let me answer the question first, and then I'll go into. I believe that housing is a priority, and again, this is my belief. I think there's not only low-cost housing, but housing for everybody is something that we need to go forward to. Exactly how we would do it, I don't know. I have not been privy to the different ways and means. I'm going to take probably several weeks or possibly a couple of months to be able to adjust and understand the different problems that are going on. I want to express also my opinion that the people of Wareham are not stupid. And I think that maybe some of the people in charge don't respect or don't want to go out and find out what the people. They do token sort of projects. They'll have a couple of days, a couple of dates where people can come and. But these are working people. They're not able to take out time. I mean, they're probably too two types of working people in general around here that work in Wareham, and those are people that have so many hours that when they come home, I knew I was going to get in trouble here. When they get home, they aren't able to focus on what's going on. You need to go out into the community and get them to tell you personally how they feel. I ran out of time, sorry.
No, you've got 5 seconds.
Oh.
Gee, thanks.
Use it.
Just give it to Bruce, he'll use it all up.
You're done.
Yep. 5 seconds.
Okay. All right, I'm not really familiar with the Westfield project. I know things about it. I don't know enough specifics to know where the lag is coming in from to go rectify that. So I don't want to be shooting in the blind here. But, you know, one thing I don't understand, if I ran my business this way, I'd be out of business by now. That's like not having a product on my shelf that I desperately need. And this town desperately needs the tax revenue. For everything we do, we need the tax revenue. $6 million is projected to be in the hole in the next 5 years. So, quite frankly, I'm still a little puzzled. Again, this must be a good example of government bureaucracy working at its best. So,
Well, I think I mentioned in my initial remarks that I attended Tabor Academy. In fact, I was class of 1977. Interestingly enough, John Fish of Suffolk Construction is class of 78, the CEO of that rather large construction company. So the short and flippant answer would be I'd give John a call and see what he would like to do with it, because that's exactly what his firm does as one of their sidelines, is develop these sorts of places. But I think we have to acknowledge that we're in a very difficult time in the economically. We have to acknowledge that any construction project where a developer feels that there might be some risk, they're tending to avoid those right now. They've pulled in their horns. They're not grasping out to try to get that business at this time because they don't have enough business where they're guaranteed to really get the bucks in to be able to take those risks. So to me, we can try all the different things. We can try to reach out to developers. We can try to talk to people on Beacon Hill to see what we can do. But I just think it's going to be tough sledding going forward for the next little while. Once this becomes an attractive investment, a more certain investment for the people, the developers to get into it, then I think we'll see a lot more action on it.
Bruce? No.
Well, this certainly would be an attractive investment and a sure or secure investment if we would just treat it that way. Developers are not in the business of passing up opportunities like this. We are granting 17 acres of land to a developer for $1. For 99 years, $500,000 potentially for sewer or water or other infrastructure betterment. We have skin in the game. We have something to offer here, and we have a credible project. If we would just treat it as a community investment, which is what it is, it will produce hundreds of thousands of dollars over many years to this community in the form of desperately needed fees for sewer and water as well as tax revenues. We want to finance our schools. We want to finance busing. We want to finance police. We want to do all the things we want to do. We need real money. And this, Westfield, is an economic development priority. Add to that, it will provide valuable, affordable, dignified housing to our middle-income seniors of this community who desperately need that form of housing because it's not here. Okay, we're talking about our teachers, our police, our firefighters, our municipal employees, and just middle-income Wareham residents that have paid into our tax system all their years, and they just want a dignified retirement. We can provide that for our own people. And any community who says they're compassionate about their own people should not be turning their nose up at a project like this, which has been the political result of years of bickering and fighting over something that is in all of our collective interests. Obviously, I support Westfield because it will also stem 40B development, which is the type of housing we absolutely cannot afford any longer in this community. And this would go a long way in providing for our 10% affordable housing threshold. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe the question, Andrea, was how we speed this up. Basically, the problem has been with Westfield is that it hasn't been financially feasible for developers. We basically passed certain rules at town meeting of how this had to be structured. The bottom line is we need to go back and sit down with the developers and say, here's what we have, here's basically our parameters, and what is feasible right now, what will actually get you to step up and bid on this. We didn't get any bids last time around. We ended up with a project up to 280 units because they were trying to make the 40B numbers. Those numbers doesn't matter. Those numbers can change at any time. The bottom line is if you want to speed up this project, you have to sit with the developers and find out what they will actually do to make a bid. If you don't get a bid, there is no development. We need to have something that's feasible for the seniors and for the town. Building something that generates income also comes with expenses of taking care of the facility and also the services seniors need. It's not obviously going to be a plus for the town. If you get a lot of people, as an example, to come in and build homes, and they have a lot of kids come into the school system, the town ends up with more expense than it has income. This could be the same thing. So you just can't look at what the income is coming from the development. What is the cost that goes along with it? Thank you.
Good evening, Eddie Pasevich, Briarwood. The subject dear and near to my heart. Do you support the proposed nitrogen bylaw for new construction, which sets limits on the amount of nitrogen that can be discharged, and if so, why?
If so, why? But if they don't, you don't want to know why?
Well, sure, they could give me a reason why. I just couldn't understand it, but it's worth hearing.
Eddie, I'm sorry, I haven't really read the bylaws, so I can't really comment on that. But as far as any new development is concerned, I think there's enough divisions in this town. So I don't think we want developers coming in here and adding to the problem that we already have. We need to try to resolve that, not add to it. So anything moving forward as far as any kind of new development is, should certainly, if they certainly should comply. But in any event, I have not seen them, so I'm going to have to hold on to my answer on that one.
Well, as an environmental attorney, issues like this are near and dear to my heart, and I could really speak all night about this if anybody wants me to. No, I didn't think so. So anyway, here are a few brief thoughts. I view nitrogen as a regional issue and not merely a local one. I would like to see the regional process that my late mother was involved in through the Carver, Plymouth, Wareham Aquifer Committee, and that she also served on with you, Eddie. I remember you well in that role, and she spoke highly of your dedication and your commitment to researching things. But I believe a local-only approach will not address nitrogen output from other towns that enters Wareham through our rivers and our streams and our groundwater flow. And I also wonder whether it's really an appropriate time to pass another article while the Board of Health is actively meeting to propose draft regulations. I feel it would probably be more productive to let that process be completed before we decide whether we need additional regulation. And I've heard complaints that Mass DEP's standard of 19 parts per million is too lenient, especially when our own sewer facility is limited to a discharge of 4 parts per million. But people need to understand that the sewer treatment plant discharges something on the order of 1 million+ gallons a day of treated water. And it's a huge source point of potential nitrogen releases to surface waters in the town. And accordingly, it's held to a much higher standard due to the scope of its impact. And so while I support further study as to whether the DEP's limit of 19 parts per million really does serve to protect the environment or whether the standard needs to be strengthened, I think the process needs to play out on the regional and state level, as we can really only achieve partial benefits by going it alone.
Thank you. If I can take 10 seconds on the last question. First of all, Westfield is a senior affordable housing project. There will be no kids in the system. Secondly, the fastest way to get that project online is to rehire a consultant.
Okay, you can do that at the end when you've got your closing arguments.
As far as nitrogen is concerned, obviously, yes, I do support the bylaw. Look, we live in an extremely sensitive ecological area. We've got 54 miles of shoreline. 25% of our community is wet. We have a significant amount of agricultural activity. It seems to me that all of the burden of environmental management is falling squarely on the shoulders of sewer ratepayers and sewer ratepayers only. This bylaw would only affect new construction, new development of any kind. That's vitally important to understand because we're not going to be going around with people with existing septic systems and applying these standards to them. This is new developers building new projects. What happens if we don't implement some kind of strategy that's balanced and fair, then all the sewer ratepayers are doing is supplementing that development. They're just paying the tab for new load into the system. As far as a regional approach, nitrogen finds its way into the estuary closest to that estuary. There's a process called attenuation, which simply means that nitrogen loaded way upland, in other communities and towns, it takes an extremely long time for that nitrogen to migrate, and very little of it gets here. It's our problem because of where we're situated, and we need to deal with it in a fair and balanced way, and that is just not happening right now. That's one of the three phases of environmental management is this bylaw, and I certainly do support 12 parts per million when our plant is required to put out 4.
Again, to answer the question was basically, do we support this particular bylaw? I'm confused as to why this article was filed in the first place. We have a Board of Health who has been instructed to basically set a set of regulations. The Board of Health is an autonomous board, and they're working on that particular project. This is a duplication of the same exact thing. You don't have a bylaw when the Board of Health has regulations to enforce things. The particular Board of Health has been a little slow. There's been the complaint getting this done. They've had issues with members that have left. They've had some illnesses, etc. The Board of Health is quite a ways on the way to finishing the regulations. I think they're actually discussing seriously of adopting the 12 parts per million. For us to sit there and pass a bylaw makes no sense whatsoever when there already is a Board of Health that's going to actually set regulations and can enforce them. Thank you.
Once again, this is a question of what do the people of Wareham want. And I wouldn't be able to vote on it until I know. So I'm going to pass on this and say that this is something that I do not know, and I won't be able to make a decision on it until I find out. We represent the people of Wareham, and we need to get their input. And we have a town meeting where 1 or 2% of the people show up. I mean, how can you get any kind of an idea without going to them directly, without going to the people directly? So I'm going to pass on that.
Okay, no, Mark, up here. Yeah, you. Wakey, wakey.
Hi, my name's Len Gay, I live in Onset, and I had a question for Bruce only because he's the only one that mentioned it, and I just want a clarification. Can I ask him, all right, can I ask the whole board?
You have to ask the whole board.
Okay, I want the whole board to define what?
I will decide if the whole board's going to answer it,
Okay.
because If it's a question that's stacked because Bruce is a former selectman, you
No.
cannot ask it.
Nope.
Okay.
I have to address the whole board. Will you define the Route 6 corridor? What is it?
Okay, I don't think,
I can answer, but I don't think anybody.
yeah, the Route 6 corridor is Route 6 and the whole area that it encompasses.
What is that area?
Route 6.
No.
Hello?
Route 6 goes to New Bedford. Cranberry Highway goes to Buzzards Bay. Which
So-
one is he talking about?
6 to 28.
You can ask him afterwards. We have answers from the audience. No. All right. Larry was next, and then over there, Martha, there, and there. Okay?
Just Wareham.
My name is Larry Gaines. I'm on District 5. I'm a little bit scared to ask this question because I've heard a lot of let's wait, let's do this, let's do that. And ever since I've been in this town, this is the constant theme I hear. And I see two people up here and said, let's go, go, go. I happen to be involved with seniors in need. I'm going to ask you guys to tell me how you're going to help me help the seniors in this town who are in need of help, all kinds of help. Housing help, financial help, advisory help. It's your turn.
Okay, well, I'm going to confess that I would like to hear more specificity as to what the needs are. But initially, one of the things that I would like to change in town is the way sewer rates are assessed. I don't believe that the EDU rate system takes into account people who are older, whose kids have left the house, and who are living in what's defined as a 3-bedroom house, but yet they're using much less water than a family with 4 kids would use. So that's one of the ways I would look at trying to assist our seniors. I think we also, in a time like this, we have in the past, and I don't know if it occurred again this summer, but we've had a tax work-off program where seniors, I believe, were collecting parking fees down in Onset. I would like to see this expanded into other areas where the seniors, I think, would be happy for the opportunity to perhaps assist with maintenance issues with which they're familiar, to help keep our municipal facilities up and looking nice. But really, I think if you could articulate those needs better, and I don't mean to be insulting when I say that, but if you could get down to some specifics, I think we could answer your question a little better. Thank you.
It goes all the way to Bruce.
All right, thank you. What are we going to do to improve the life of seniors in the town of Wareham? Well, first of all, we don't pass overrides. We don't pass tax increases on a population that's struggling financially right now. Secondly, I was on the board that formed the Senior Work-Off Program, and that program is available for any department in town that wishes to utilize it, and seniors can volunteer for any of those departments. But that begs a point. We do have seniors working in the hot sun all summer long, sitting in a parking lot area to knock off a few $100s off their taxes. So when we make this argument that overrides are very small incrementally, we have a significant senior population that might disagree with that point of view. The EDU thing, look, 30% of our taxpayers, ratepayers, sewer ratepayers, don't even live here. If we want to make it a fair system, we have to address all ratepayers, and I believe seniors understand that. Affordable housing is a perfect way to address their real needs. If they're paying 30% of their income or $300 a month for a nice facility like Westfield, they have a lot more disposable income to be able to do that. more economic development produces more revenues, which means we can afford to finance more services like the Council on Aging. That is our ultimate goal, and I believe that's the Board of Selectmen's vision goal, must be to produce greater revenues in this community by expanding our tax base so that we can actually lower taxes for everybody, including seniors. Imagine a Wareham where we could have all the services that we want, plenty of money, and actually lower taxes on the residential ratepayer. That is a reality if we would just start working towards that goal. There are many things we can do for seniors and our community in general, and I think that we have not pursued all those avenues.
Hello, Larry. Larry, of course, runs the Friends. I'm a member of the Council on Aging. We do a lot of different projects in town. We also have certain we try certain things to actually put together. There's a possibility of doing some regional work to try and get services to the seniors that aren't available individually in Wareham. We've been looking at transportation. We have serious issues for the seniors because we now have in New Bedford and Fall River some very excellent medical facilities. Unfortunately, we don't have transportation going from east to west. We can get people up to certain areas. Mattapoisett actually has a van that was acquired through a grant program, and there's been some discussion with them about possibly working together. These are areas where it's really important because seniors do have medical issues, obviously, on a constant basis. There are SHINE programs, there are other programs that work. The problem is that as we go along, our state and our federal agencies keep cutting back, and it's really easy to cut back on the people who don't have much say in it. There is no easy answer for Larry as far as what we can do. We just have to keep working and looking at different alternatives and find ways to do it. Larry set up a food pantry as far as getting equipment. We need to reach out to the community and try and get more contributions. We need to run some longer hours. We might even have to get to a point where people who can't get to us, we go to them. That's an area where always it bothers me. I see people come into the senior center, but I think there's a lot more people who would be there if we made it easier for them to get there and get them back home again. There are a lot of events we can do to keep them busy. There are movies, a lot of other things. These are things that will happen. Even though we don't have money, these are things that can be done by volunteers. And again, as my original statement said, we need you to step up and help us. Thank you.
You know, the Friends of the Elderly, which Larry is the president of now, is doing an incredible job of bringing to the seniors services that they wouldn't have automatically. I support, not only because seniors represent a large portion of our populace, but because they're greatly in need, particularly it seems so in Wareham. To tell you how I would vote, it would depend, but I can tell you if you bring your ideas to me, if I'm elected, I will support it because I believe in very strongly that the seniors can and must get support from the selectmen and from the community. Thank you.
So the question was, how do we help seniors in this town, and what are we going to do about it? In this economy, certainly with budget cuts at the federal level, state level, have dried up a lot of stuff for the most vulnerable. Unfortunately, seniors don't have another option to go get another job or maybe work a second job. So a lot of the burden should be falling, like I said, a lot of burden should be falling on people like myself as small business owners. So one of the things coming from that particular background I'd like to focus in on is pursuing a lot of small businesses that are establishing in other towns like Plymouth, because if we can get that revenue stream in-house, that can help us address a lot of the concerns of the seniors, for that matter. And secondly, you know what? We've been a test case, folks. Larry, every time I've done wine tasting, I've always done it for the Wareham elderly, and any proceeds that we've generated from that have always gone back to the Wareham elderly. It's my personal belief that the younger generation needs to look after the most vulnerable because that's where we came from, that's where our roots are, and we need to be mindful of where they are today. Thanks.
question was over there.
Nicole DiPasquale, Precinct 6. My question is we have a lot of unnecessary money coming out of our pockets. One of the biggest things seems to be litigation in this town. I'd like to know what each of you, with our little litigation bills so enormous, how do you try and work with people to avoid those litigations, potential litigations?
Okay. Is that something the selectmen actually do?
Well, yes. Will they work with the department heads to try and avoid the litigation versus just going for it?
I'm sorry, that's not something the selectmen deal with. They obviously, Ellen, help me out here, please. The question is, what would the selectmen do to try and stave off litigation? Can you get involved in these issues before, so... Yeah, okay, so you can't.
It's day to day. And as a matter of fact...
No, I don't think she was talking employees. I think she was talking...
I mean, like policies and procedures.
Are you talking employees?
No, because that's day to day. I understand that. But with the policies and procedures, we've seen former Board of Selectmen who have said, go ahead and sue the town. So what I'd like to know is, what will a Board of Selectmen, litigation seems to be one of the biggest things that drains our pockets.
I'm going to defer to the current selectman, please.
From the standpoint
Wait, hold on.
From the standpoint of litigation, we had a report from town council, and at the beginning of the year, he had a stack like this, and so I agree with you, but these were from over the years. The last report we got was a single page, one side. So that is day to day. I mean, once it happens, the selectmen we do get involved, but from the standpoint of preventing litigation, I'm not sure that that's possible.
Aren't the majority of the lawsuits dealing with land?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what
and many of these things have already been resolved. But I kind of understand your question, because I remember this question from last year, the year before, a couple years ago, and I think that it was an issue. Absolutely. I think that, but I really think that with town council, there's a lot of mediation going on now. So it doesn't necessarily reach that level. And having town council kind of being in there on a regular basis has certainly avoided things going forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Ellen. Here, and then in the blue shirt, pink shirt, and Martha. You were ahead of who? Okay, I'm sorry. Be patient.
Great, thank you very much. I'm Ron Robinson from Wareham. Kind of hypothetical situation, but if you could just think for a minute that you are elected selectmen, and that you just recently become aware of various policies and procedures that you determine were not fair and that have caused much mistrust from Wareham residents. Please tell us, this audience, tell us how would you deal with that situation, and please be specific.
Okay, did everybody hear the question?
Could you repeat it again, please?
Ms. Robinson, please.
As selectmen, you became aware that there were various policies and procedures that were not fair and that actually caused a lot of mistrust among Wareham residents. So please tell us how you would go about correcting these policies or procedures, and please be specific.
Okay, Bruce, I believe we start with you.
Well, mistrust is certainly an issue. and has been for a long time in Wareham. The fastest way for the Board of Selectmen to manage that problem is to be able to communicate with those that are affected, that are going to be impacted by those policies and procedures. For example, we have new sewer rate payers that are not online yet that are waiting for their estimates. How in the world can we not provide basic information like that to grown adults who have to make decisions about their own finances? How can we withhold that kind of information? When I was on the Board of Selectmen, we had many neighborhoods that we were sewering, and we always held public forums and meetings, and we were always within 5% up or down on the estimates for those projects. In most instances, we came right under. There's no reason whatsoever not to communicate that information. That's where mistrust comes from, when your government or those representing you refuse to give you basic information that you absolutely have to have. And I would be mistrustful in that situation. So I would use that as an example of pure communication. Look, as a selectman, what's the worst that can happen? You get unelected. It's not the end of the world, I assure you. It's worth it just to tell the truth, because eventually the information is going to come out anyway. So you might as well be straight up and treat people like the adults that they are, because that's the way they're treating you. They've elected you to be an adult, and that would be how I believe you manage the mistrust issue. You build trust by being credible.
Ron, you place, it's an interesting question. I know that there's a situation personally, obviously, with Oakdale and the sewer project there, and just in general. As far as Oakdale goes, in my particular case, I have 2 homes in that particular project, so if I ever had that decision to make, obviously I would have to recuse myself. But I'll give you some answers, even though I can't answer that particular point. If a policy has been set, or if people have been told, in a particular case of the sewer, that the project was mandated, and there's been questions about whether it was or not and how it was testified to, the bottom line is that you basically say, okay, you go back, and you can't go back and redo the betterments per se, but you start at that particular point, you say, okay, going forward, we have to do this in a better way. You know, in a particular case, if we want to go into the sewer project, we had 3 phases. Obviously, the 3 phases should have been put together as a lump sum at least. It just wasn't equitable the way it's all been done as far as it goes. I live in the Parkwood area. We paid $15,000. We were told it was going to be 18 to 19. Now, the Oakdale section was told it was going to be 22,000 originally. Now, Oakdale and Parkwood basically have the same stimulus money, have the same cost savings, because everything went down because, you know, there wasn't a lot of construction. The bids came in a lot lower. The actual cost became lower. So in the case of, you know, Oakdale, I think the reason why you're not getting a number right now is they don't want to give you the number until they know exactly what it is. Because I don't see any reason why that if Parkwood went from 19,000 to 15, why Oakdale won't go from 22 down to a number that's fairly reasonable. But we won't know till April 3rd, because if I was a selectman, the last thing I want to do is make a promise to somebody before I know for sure exactly what it is, because then you're going to be very upset with me if I give you the wrong information. But as far as policies go, when there is a mistake or something isn't fair, you step up and say, it wasn't done fairly, we'll try and take care of it going forward. It's very difficult to correct the past, but you sure don't want to go forward. Thank you.
Once again, who's to determine whether it's fair or unfair? It's determined by the people. And the way the people would find out is if you go into towns and among the other people and talk to them. Show them what your particular point of view is and see what they think of it. But I think it has to be done in the community, and let the community decide whether it's fair or unfair. That's
well, being so new, if there was a bait and switch, I think we need to get to the root cause. I haven't really seen anything immediately. Maybe I'm not aware of it, but I can tell you this, it's just like any other relationship between a husband and a spouse. If I cheated on my wife, I think she won't be that happy. So I don't think pulling a bait and switch succeeds in any relationship, and that goes all across the board, whether it's business, personal relationship with customers, or constituents of the town. So apologize, I don't have an exact example, but that's how I feel about that.
Okay, I'd like to respond to your question in two ways. First is just to sort of give you my legal philosophy. The most important right we have in this country falls under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and through that, the 14th Amendment, which binds the states the same way, and that is that the government is required to give you notice and opportunity to be heard when it embarks in the decision-making process. That's more important than free speech, because if you can't talk to the government, who cares what you have to say, or that you can say it on the street corner? What I would need to do in your specific circumstance is, in order to arrive at a conclusion that you were treated unfairly, the selectmen would need to go back, revisit the decision-making process, see if there were steps taken that weren't fair, and from there, I'll be honest, it's going to be difficult to resolve. It's going to be difficult to level the field financially, because at that point, you're asking other ratepayers, other sewer users to come in and help pick you up. My initial inclination when the Phase 1 and 2 contracts were being discussed was I didn't understand why Oak Street comes out to Minot Ave, Narrows Road right there, and your project started literally across the intersection. I mean, any kid in town can throw a rock from one to the other. Why they weren't done as both. But again, I can't speak to the decisions that were made because I haven't looked at them yet. But if I am lucky enough to be a selectman, I will be more than happy to make that examination.
Okay. Mark, hold on. Hold that thought, Martha. Lady in the pink.
Hi, Louise Hardiman, Precinct 2. I have a simple question, and I think it's a fair question for anybody who's running for office, and it's an important question to me. A couple of people up there have talked about honesty and trust and confidence in government. The question is, do any of you owe any taxes to the town? And if not, or if you do, is there some sort of an explanation that would make that understandable to me as a taxpayer and a voter?
I'm not sure I'm going to allow that because that's, well, you know what? No, whoa. Excuse me. Thank you.
Just allow it. It's a fair question. Just let it.
Public knowledge.
It is.
You know, take a vote.
No, because then we'll be here all night.
Just let it go.
All right.
Let it go.
All right.
No.
I'm up to date.
I really hope not, because my sister is a CPA, so.
Is it yes or a no?
No.
No, I had the pleasure of paying the property tax at the end of, what was it, January, and then the excise tax. Yes, 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 I'm up to date.
Thank you. Yes or no?
I don't owe any property taxes to the town of Wareham. They're paid on time, and we all know where this is going, what this question is about. This is about the fact that I owed federal taxes 10 years ago, and that's true. I had a dispute with the federal government. I entered into an agreement, negotiated successfully. It's been paid for by the amount of tens and tens of thousands of dollars over that 10 years, including the taxes that I pay every year. We have a system in this country, according to what the counselor just said, a judicial system that allows any American to challenge any issue under the government, and that includes tax disputes as well. They're happy. The government is happy. I'm happy, and this is a decade-old issue that never affected my ability to be a selectman and will not affect my ability to be a selectman again. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Fella in the blue and then you, Martha.
Joe McDonald, Cremisa Road. The police chief was hired about a year ago amid some controversy, primarily due to compensation. And I'm just wondering how each of you felt back then about that decision and how you feel today.
Okay. Who's next? Wait, I have a list. Ellen, you're up. You did. Oh, all right. David, you're up. Forgot to check off the stupid list.
If I understand the question, you're asking whether we support the chief in the past and in the present. And again, this is my opinion, and since I'm not voting on it, I've always thought that he brought some real stability to the police force. I thought he's done a wonderful job, and I personally like the man and would support him.
You know, as a small business owner in town, and obviously being in the business that we're in, liquor business, security is absolutely important. 2 years ago, we had a robbery, and somebody broke in, took some money, and I can tell you this, it took about 10 to 15 minutes for the police to arrive. The second time around, this just happened, we had a break-in and entering a few months back, and it took them 3 minutes to arrive. So the response time, as far as their improvement is there, it's there. So there are some of the, I'll just highlight some of the results. And these are independent things. The internal affair complaints in 2009 were 20 when he took office. In 2011, they decreased by 85%. That's 3 complaints. That's pretty remarkable. As far as security, it's absolutely paramount for any small business to come into community. Security is going to be a paramount factor for them. And as far as also, not to mention the certification that these guys, he's updated the policies and procedures, and the police department getting the certification, it makes us 8 counties 8% of the counties in Massachusetts have that certification. So, you know what, quite frankly, I think the guy's doing a good job, and I think it's a worthwhile investment that we made in the chief of police.
Okay, I have to be honest, I was a bit concerned when we set a base salary for him of $166,000 when the commissioner of police in Boston at the time, Paul Evans, was getting something like $178,000. I would have been happier to see $20,000 knocked off of that. That said, he's under contract now. We owe him the money. We need to continue to pay him through the end of his contract. As far as his job performance goes, I will confess that I like looking out my window at 2 o'clock in the morning and seeing a police cruiser down in the parking lot at Tempest Knob as opposed to drug dealers down there. So I think he's done a pretty good job of fighting crime. I would laud him for that. I think the certification that he achieved for the department was a good thing as well. I just hope that, as I hope with every town department, that he's been able to accomplish these things somewhat within sight of the budget. So I guess we'll find that out.
Well, $166,000 is a lot of money, but he is not the highest paid employee in this town. He should be, based on his performance, but he's not. We'll see if we can help him with that, in my opinion. I did support him before, and I continue to support him. I helped hire him, and I was thrilled to death when we actually got him to agree to come here as not just an interim, but a full-time police chief. This chief gets it. He understands the relationship between public safety and major issues that we need to pursue, like economic development. He understands that correlation. He understands that as far as a policing philosophy, that the ideal is not to be reactive as a department, but to be proactive, and that is his management approach. And you can tell from how he has reordered and reorganized his organization from superior officer to the ranks, that is exactly, that philosophy is permeated through the entire department, and we as a community have substantially benefited by that. Major arrests are way up, 60%. Felony, violent crimes, drug arrests. He's made it very expensive for the element we don't need here to set up shop, and that message is getting out on the street. That, to me, is proactive on the behalf of the community to support you and I. His training initiatives are extensive. That's what was seriously lacking in this department for a long time. His motor vehicle citations went from 1,200 to 3,200 last year in just over a 3-year period of time. That's a 167% increase, which, according to the National Highway Traffic Administration, saves lives. Our personal injury accidents have decreased by 26% just since he's been, since he's been here. I admire him as a man. I admire what he's done for our community. He's worth every dollar, and it was one of the best investments we ever made in our department.
Hold your pause, please. Alan's still speaking.
Thank you. To answer the question, I have experience with a chief that goes way back before he was hired, when he was here part-time. I was involved working with him very closely, looking at the capital assets that he had, looking at the vehicles in the graveyard and behind the facility, and working with him, coming up with some basic projects for the first couple of years, including his new communication system, obviously the vehicles, etc. He and I sat down one day and we talked about what his future was going to be, why he was going to come to Wareham and what it would take and what he would do. He explained exactly what he was going to do over a 3-year period. He explained how he was going to train officers that when he left, if he was going to leave at 3 years, everything would be in place for everything to move smoothly ahead. Normally you would pay someone like that by the surrounding areas $120,000 a year. The $160,000 is kind of a misnomer. His salary, I believe, is something like $132,000. We have a thing called the Quinn Bill, which all police officers qualify by their education to get anywhere from, I think it's a 5 or 10%, up to a 30% bonus. That adds in plus vehicle, etc. That's how you come up with the money. In my own opinion, I figured $120,000 was a reasonable figure for the police chief. But if he's going to be here 3 years and do everything that he explained he was going to do, I have no problem paying him an extra $40,000 a year. And as of today, he's proved all the way through that he's done exactly what he said he would do.
All right. We have to pause for 1 minute so Steve can change the disc. We're a little long weekend. Not me. Okay, we have 2 questions left, and then I think we'll call it a night. Martha, you have been patiently waiting. Go ahead.
Martha Strawn, Precinct 3. Even though this question has been touched upon, it hasn't fully been answered, and that's why I'm hanging in there to ask this question. How would you propose to reduce the burden on the residents for sewer betterments?
David, we start with you.
Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to any of the meetings. I've been working. I work about 30 to 50 hours a week, so I've neglected my services. I've been trying to get elected, so I have no idea. Whoops.
Okay.
Sure. In order to lessen the burden on the taxpayers, it is certainly tough times, and every family out there is getting hit with the economy. In order to certainly lower the burden, I only see 2 avenues from a business standpoint. Obviously, we need to complete the outstanding contracts that are out there so we can achieve some of the economies of scale that were projected to be as a part of the as a whole. And also the second part is the revenue generation, which again, we need to do a better job of soliciting a lot of the business community in this town so we can have money to do a lot of the stuff we want to do. Right now, we don't have any of that. So obviously, working on the revenue side of the equation will help us alleviate that.
I assume your question is how to reduce the burden for future sewer betterments, oncoming ones. For example, Contract 3. My suggestion, and I don't know that it would result in anything, but I would suggest that we hold off on Contract 3 until we have the national election in the fall. We see if there is a change in the House of Representatives, U.S. Congress, that switches over to the Democratic side. Without getting into party politics, I think it's generally understood that the Democratic Party is more willing to invest in infrastructure and to do that at the state level and to make grants and money available than a Republican-dominated Congress. So, again, that's no promise that any of this could happen, but I don't think that we're harmed if we hold off a few short months to see what happens in Washington and then hope that they can get some kind of second stimulus package through.
Well, excuse me. Here's why we shouldn't do that, why we shouldn't hold off anything. Every resident in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is entitled by law to a $6,000 tax credit for those taxpayers required to move off of septic and on to sewer, if mandated by a legislative act. In 2004, the town meeting, Article 27, voted unanimously and mandated that all 12 of the neighborhoods we're referring to as contracts should in fact be sewered. That is a legislative act. So the only way that those residents in those contracts, including Contract 3, can get $6,000 worth of relief would be, in fact, for the town of Wareham to apply to the DOR for certification so that those residents can attach to their Massachusetts tax returns that credit, $6,000 for dollar off taxes, $1,500 a year over 4 years. But that cannot happen if the Board of Selectmen is sitting on those contracts, and it is time sensitive. Every year that goes by is $1,500 lost. That would go a long way to handle the citizens' petition that's coming before us at town meeting, because the citizens in that contract, Contract 2, that want to cap it at 18, would actually only be paying 16, 2,000 below that cap. That would go a long way in the citizens being able to resolve their own issues by utilizing the very tax code that exists and is available to every citizen in the Commonwealth. That's what I would do to reduce the That's what I would do first to reduce that burden. There are a lot of other initiatives that the Board of Selectmen and sewer commissioners should be engaged in, and that's exactly what I will do when I go back there, if you put me there.
Again, to answer the question, as far as the $6,000 credit, please understand that that credit is for a failed system or a system under a state-mandated program. Since I have a system currently that we just replaced that doesn't meet any of those criteria, I don't qualify for the credit. So I want to make sure the information is clear. As far as the sewer department, they've never really had what we call a financial statement. Everybody in business has a financial statement to know whether they make a profit or loss. It's an income statement. We've never really had one. We don't know what the true costs are. We don't know if we're undercharging or we're overcharging. You need to get that done first before you know what's going on. As far as the future, the Water Pollution Control Facility Director, Mr. Campina, is working on a bunch of strategic plans right now. Not a lot of it is out in public yet because he's slowly putting things together. But to give you some ideas, which may end up reducing our costs long term, he's working with basically the CMAS. CMAS needs water to cool their facility. They're having problems getting enough water. We have clean water coming out of our facility. Guy is working on a project that hasn't come to fruition yet, but he's trying to sell as much as 500,000 gallons a day to CMAS. That basically kicks our capacity up by a third. We don't have to go ahead and buy a new plant. He's also working on several projects with Mass Maritime, the town of Bourne, because Bourne wants to give us more, actually give us more sewage, and he's looking at a possibility of actually piping it back in. In addition to that, there's also a project with Plymouth, Bourne, Maritime Academy, and AD Makepeace for a long-term program for another separate facility, completely separate from what we have now, which would discharge water basically into the groundwater system. Not in our groundwater itself, but it would be actually going into the land itself. This is a brand new project as well. So the bottom line is there's a lot of things happening. You can't give yourself a straight answer right now, but there's a possibility in long-term strategic planning to save money. But the most important thing right now is to find out whether or not the water pollution control facility is making or losing money with the EDU rate.
Kate, where'd you go? There's Kate. Kate is our last question.
Do each of you support Proposition? I'm Kate Furler. Do you support the Proposition 2.5 override and or the debt exclusion for the school budget?
I think we already answered that.
No.
Oh,
It was a partial answer to some of different people.
It's late. Okay, Amit, you're the first. Yeah, you get to finish.
It's a clear answer, no. And the reason for that is, as I said before, this is not the time to be hitting up their taxpayers' pocketbooks for additional change. So as far as any kind of debt exclusion, you know what? It's a budget item. Let's stay within our limits. We can't keep on hitting up same people over and over and over. So.
Look, this is a very difficult time for them, the school committee, to come before a town meeting with such requests. I've spoken with a couple of the school committee members, and they agree that it's a tough hurdle and a tough sell. People in the town, we already have a difficult enough time, some of us paying the property taxes, sewer betterments. As with every article on the warrant, however, while I may have some initial impressions, I would like to hear my fellow town meeting members express their viewpoints, because I believe the process of getting this on the town meeting floor and debating it and hearing what people have to say is very important. I won't pretend to come into town meeting with all the wisdom in the world sitting in my head. I want to hear what my fellow citizens have to say before making a final decision. And bear in mind, too, that at town meeting, a selectman's vote doesn't count any more than anyone else's. We've also just begun the process of considering these warrant articles. They've only been available for a few days. Now that they're on the warrant, I support the right of the people through the town meeting process to make the decisions, and I'll support their decisions. I do have some initial concerns. I don't understand why school buses are included when we haven't heard from the ad hoc school bus study committee yet. It seems to me that if we haven't even heard their basic recommendation as to whether we need to stay in the school bus business or to get out of it, I question whether that should be on there. I also think the high school roof deserves some additional debate and repair, and the Minot Forest School is going to be a calculus as to whether we have the money to spend now for the school. That's ultimately what we're going to be asked to do, or not.
You're done.
She's worse than a judge.
Okay, your turn.
Pardon me. No, I do not support overrides, debt exclusions, or increasing the tax burden on Wareham's already extremely overburdened taxpayer. Sewer betterments were mentioned, but on top of sewer betterments are EDU rates. In addition to property tax, on top of that is water rates. On top of that, you pay for your own garbage collection. On top of that is a CPC override. We pay 60% right now of our collective budget, and this is not pejorative. I understand the school committee and the administration has an impossible job to do, and a vitally important job in this community. Nobody wants to tell them, we can't invest more in your system or our kids. We're not stingy taxpayers. We're not cheap. We do care about our children. But the plain fact of the matter is, what is fair? What is more fair? 60% today is what we pay the schools collectively if you include everything. Is 70% more fair? Is 80% fair? When does it become absolutely unfair to everybody except the school system? The point of the matter is, buses were mentioned as part of the debt exclusion. That's only for 4 buses. We need 50 buses. They are deteriorating. They are unsafe. That's not my words. Those are the inspection reports. 50 buses at $95,000 per. Okay? Where are we going to get that money over the next 5 years? Are we just engaging in the slippery slope of constant overrides for the next 5 years? I don't think that's the appropriate method for us to be addressing our problems fiscally. If we can't afford it, we don't pay for it. If we can't live within our means, then what is the point of electing anybody?
10 seconds.
The Board of Selectmen is a check and balance to town meeting and other boards and committees. Their vote is important because they are the only body in this community that can put that referendum question on the ballot. I will not.
Okay, to answer the question, nobody at this time wants to pay any more taxes. We're all tight money-wise. Nobody's increasing. If we're retired, nobody's increasing our monthly pay or anything else that we get from the government. But we have one problem. We all got educated. Someone else paid for it. We have a responsibility, morally and ethically, to educate our children to the best possible level we can. I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I'm not sure if an override is going to pass or not. But the bottom line is everybody has to remember that we got our education by someone else paying. And we do have that obligation, and it is a moral obligation. As far as the total cost of the school to the town, we have to remember that the town of Wareham is one piece of 3 parts. The total cost of the town of Wareham includes onset, it includes the fire and water districts that we all pay taxes to depending where we live. So it's not 60%, it's probably closer to 25 or 30 in the total budget of everything. That doesn't really matter. The problem is how do you solve this problem? We've kicked the can down the road, as everybody wants to say, for a long time now. You know, what are you going to do? You're not going to educate your children? You're not going to have safety as far as buses goes? I don't have an answer. But all I'm saying is somewhere along the line we have to make a decision. What are we going to spend our money on and what are we not going to spend our money on? Are we going to take care of our kids and cut other services? If we don't do an override, that's a tough question. Someone's going
School dropout, working in an ice cream shop.
is passed, it goes to basically the Board of Selectmen by state statute, and they're basically the gatekeepers. They either can put it on the ballot or not if they want. In my opinion, if anything comes through from town meeting in a positive way that they want, it basically passes, I don't believe I have the right to stop the people of the town of Wareham that have the ability to go on the ballot and basically make their decision known. I mean, that's basically what we've talked about for a long time, is having a town-wide vote on certain articles. This is the chance for people to actually express their opinion. Thank you. Yes or no on what?
To answer your question.
Okay, well, okay, yes.
I basically said that. I'm not.
He answered the question. Over here.
All right,
To
never
Dave.
mind.
He can sum up. He can sum up in the 2 minutes that they get at the end. Everybody.
I just wrote this down. If there ever was a question that should be brought to the people, this should be. This is not something that we are going to support as a selectman, but the people should be brought in and their opinions should be brought in. It's going to be done through town meeting, and that's where it should be. If not, somebody else. Thank you.
Okay. Because the selectmen's race is so important, we always give our candidates 2 minutes to sum up their platform, their information, whatever you want to call it. Peter, we will start with you.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief out of respect for the hour and you people having sat and probably gotten stiff for the last 3.5 hours in here.
You have 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes.
Okay.
So you're going to keep it to 2 minutes.
Oh, I will. I'll keep it to 30 seconds. Again, I think I bring a different set of characteristics that the board hasn't seen before, both with prior corporate management experience and also a legal background. One thing we haven't discussed tonight is the political environment in this town. And I'm glad that tonight we didn't see a lot of rock throwing from either side. I'm glad that the questions, I think for the most part, were honest attempts to get at the issues, to find out what we all think, and that there wasn't a lot of gotcha going on. As a selectman, I will endeavor to further that attitude. I really don't care whether I'm your friend or not. I'm not running to make friends. I'm not running to put friends in office. I'm not running to only deal with friends. I like to deal with ideas. I like to deal with thoughts. I like to deal with processes. That's what I do as a lawyer. Believe me, a lot of my clients I don't like. If I work for the town, some of you I may not like, but you will always get a fair shake with me. You will always have access to me to air your gripes, to give me your ideas, and to let me know what you think of the job that I'm doing. Thank you, and God bless.
This was a great opportunity for all the candidates to get together and share their points of view and opinions, but this will not be the last opportunity. There are 2 more debates that are going to be happening. One will be on the 26th at Town Hall Auditorium. WCTV will be broadcasting it live and repeating it. It's available to the public. That is being sponsored by Move Wareham Forward and will be moderated by 3 MPA students who will be asking questions, a police chief, a town administrator, very experienced people. So I would encourage you to either watch or attend. The 29th and the 30th will be WCTV's debate amongst all the candidates for all offices. On the 3 years, it'll be a term Board of Selectmen on the 29th. On the 2-year term, it'll be the 30th. I'm only aware of 1 candidate that's refused to attend the first debate. I hope he will change his mind, because you deserve to hear that full and open debate, no matter who is sponsoring it. As far as going forward as issues for the selectmen, we are, as selectmen, whoever is elected, going to be facing the issues of overrides and debt exclusions, a new library onto the budget. The Capital Planning Committee is looking at $75 million approximately over the next 5 years in capital improvements. The exact same period of time the town administrator is predicting millions of dollars of deficits. Now, we either approach our problems proactively instead of kicking the can down the road by developing our own economy and developing our own solutions, or we might as well just go into receivership, because we're heading that way. We can raise taxes on people every single year if that's what the community wants to do. You can elect that. Put people on the Board of Selectmen that'll do that for you. But is that going to solve the problem? The answer is no. We couldn't raise enough taxes to get out of this problem. The only solution is to grow our own economy. I believe we need to bring rail to Wareham, develop the Route 6 corridor, which is just Wareham, redevelop the road and re-engineer it. We need to revitalize the villages. We need high-end housing. All of these initiatives should be discussed at the next 2 debates. And those are the issues that I look forward to talking to you about. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for coming. I'm going to make it very simple. As I said in my speech in the beginning, we need you to help us. There's not any easy solution. There are a bunch of people that are reaching my age, actually a couple of years younger than me, called baby boomers. We need to energize them to help us. We don't have any, there's no white knight coming down the road to save us. The rail and some other things that I mentioned, those are long-term projects with federal and state monies required. It's not available right now. We need to have what was called low-hanging fruit. It's a very simple term. We need to look at our own situations to see where we can generate things on our own. Wareham is not going to generate economic development unless Wareham works as a group to do it. We need to attract business, but we have to make it a place where people want to come to live, where people want to open up a business, where people want to retire to, and they vacation to. That takes a full community effort to make that work. Thank you.
Last but not least. Oh, I still got, sorry about that. As one of my friends has put it, there's been a problem between the McCoys and the Hatfields. And this has been a turnoff to many, 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 many citizens of Wareham. And I think that's why we're having a problem with voter turnout, voters coming to support these sort of things. One of my projects will be to get the different factions together. I'm open to talking to people. I'll be able to express their opinions to the general public because I will meet with them. And that's probably the best way to solve a lot of our problems as far as bringing people into the voting, bringing the voting public back into the process. Thank you.
Folks, walking away from here, one thing I'll certainly ask everybody is to think about what kind of problem is Wareham having. Are we having a legal problem? Are we having a financial problem? Are we having a budgetary problem? And if the answer to that is, budgetary, then you certainly want to have the right type of credential at the table for that. Just to give you a good example, if your sink is broken, you're not going to go hire an electrician for the job. Similarly, what I bring to the table is not only my education in the area of finance and my advanced education in the area of finance, but also being a current business owner, I understand a lot of the challenges that we run across. And I've certainly turned around businesses. Last year in my professional career, I was ranked top 5 in the U.S. for my organization. And in the last 9 years of my professional career, I've been promoted 7 times. And that's because I can get the job done. And we're having political problems. And the clear way out of this is going to be big business. We need to get things underway and stop talking about it. Let's just get something done for once, Thank you. Good night.
Okay. The dates again?
The dates of the debates,
The 26th and the 29th. 29th and 30th. That you have to check with WCTV on. Okay, thanks again. If you guys would move the chairs, I sure would appreciate it. And good night. See you April 3rd for voting.